Trailer for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets, ain't got no cigarettes.
People who have lost their bearings, and gentlemen, No Reference Rants is currently utilizing the same tactic McCain through X tried for months against me, responding to me indirectly because he perceives me, well, McStupid's a woman, he's a man, because he perceives me as a huge threat. I told you some months ago, every time No Reference Rants uploaded a video on morality, I was going to recycle my previous response to him, which I will do at this time. Go watch that video if you haven't and come back here. No Reference Rants doesn't pay attention very well, nor is he very well read. I never said that one has to believe in God to be a good person. In fact, I made that point very clear. Other folks far higher on the philosophical food chain have made that point too. One doesn't have to believe in God or a higher power to be a good, quote-unquote, person. But if one doesn't believe in God or a higher power, from where does that objective morality come from? Evolution, perhaps? No Reference Rants seems a bit confused here, as he's been known to conflate terms, or he just doesn't pay attention. I'll let my viewers decide which it is. I also find it hilarious that No Reference Rants looks to Richard Dawkins for philosophical advice rather than someone like Massimo Pigliucci or George Smith or Michael Roos or the guy working the counter at the 7-Eleven who is more intelligent than No Reference Rants.
When you make a value judgment, don't you immediately step yourself outside of this evolutionary process and say there is the reason this is good is because it's good, and you don't have any way to stand on that statement?
But my value judgment itself could come from my evolutionary past, and I suppose...
So therefore, it's just as random in a sense as any product of evolution.
Well, you could say that, but it doesn't in any case. Nothing about it makes it more probable that there is anything supernatural.
Okay, but ultimately, your belief that rape is wrong is as arbitrary as the fact that we've evolved 5 fingers rather than 6. I mean,
you could say that, yeah.
Yeah.
I also find it hilarious that No Reference Rants says, even though it's impossible to prove a negative in a cosmic or mystical sense. Here's the reason No Reference Rants is saying this, and I've already had these screenshots in a previous video. He's engaging in Monday morning quarterbacking. During his debate with the Cartesian theist, which I recorded, Old Fart Rants admitted, saying, I stand corrected when it was proven to him that one can prove a negative. He will respond to this in 2 ways. One, he will say he was doing this to move the debate along, which is a lie to cover up the fact that he was proven wrong. He was just moving the debate along. He just admitted he was totally wrong because he wanted to move that debate along, even though he didn't say so. Monday morning quarterbacking. His other tactic will be to move the goalposts and say, well, can't do it in a mystical sense. Don't ask him for a philosopher to reference that. He gets all his material from the checkout counter at Walmart. So his argument is dead in the water. The other part that is quite odd is his goofy segue to the Exodus from Egypt. This really has nothing to do with whether morality is objective or subjective, but it's the only way he can tackle the argument. He has read no peer-reviewed literature on this topic, but did some hasty Google searches for some talking points so he could appear intelligent to his ADHD sheep. I also have screen caps of a debate I had with him on the Y760 Nitro channel a few years ago, where I quizzed him using his same parameters that he uses against the Bible to eliminate Pharaoh Amenemhet from history, but he could not answer. He knows I still have those screen caps and is doing this to beat me to the punch, but that's what I want him to do, just as I goaded him into doing a video response to me a few years ago. I will chronicle that debate at a later date. Thank you, No Reference Rants, for letting everyone know it's still bothering you. I goaded him into this. The only difference now is he's not going to mention me by name because he's afraid that his sheep will think his cut-and-paste reply didn't get the job done the first time. Does No Reference Rants, who puts no references with his videos, believe morality is subjective? Let's listen to some of his whining over the past several years and see if he practices what he preaches. One of the disadvantages of him having 24 hours of free time in front of the computers. He's so busy uploading videos because he thinks he's something special. He never really does much fact-checking. Never bothers to make sure he's never contradicted himself in the past. He's so busy being a YouTube phenom that he makes lots of mistakes. There's no way to recover from this. Mr. Broadcast Engineer, please roll the tape.
But this guy, Cope Reynolds, takes the cake. He owns a gun store in Pine Top, Arizona called Southwest Shooting Authority, and he took out an ad last week in the local newspaper and put a sign on his front door that spells out the store's new policy. If you voted for Barack Obama, your business is not welcome. You have proven you are not responsible enough to own a firearm. How ironic is it that a gun store in Arizona, which has some of the loosest gun laws in the country, is actually doing more to limit people's constitutional right to purchase firearms than the Obama administration has, and forcing customers to surrender their sacred right to the secrecy of their ballots as a precondition of doing business? Really, Mr. Reynolds? You know who else fancied belligerent nationalism? Hitler. Holy Seinfeld, Batman, we got ourselves a Nazi. No gun for you. You know, I have no interest in debating philosophy because it doesn't prove anything. Philosophy can only ask questions, for which the possible answers are by their very nature nothing but subjective speculation and conjecture. That the Christian argument for God-given morality is entirely man-made and therefore subjective. Arizona is always good for a laugh. Who could forget Arizona Senator John Old Walnuts McCain picking the dumbest woman on earth as his vice presidential running mate? And remember back in 2010 when Arizona tried to pass SB 1070, the Papers, Please law, a law that would essentially turn the Fourth Amendment into toilet paper by allowing the police to check anybody's papers who they didn't think looked quite right. That was a good one too, especially if you're a fan of 1930s Germany.
You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire.
You know, I have no interest in debating philosophy because it doesn't prove anything. Philosophy can only ask questions, for which the possible answers are by their very nature nothing but subjective speculation and conjecture. That the Christian argument for God-given morality is entirely man-made and therefore subjective. Hitler believed that if you told a big enough lie and repeated it often enough, eventually people would believe it because of its audacity and repetition. And he was right. Look what happened to the Jews. And the Republicans and neocons and teabaggers are doing the same thing today. They lie like hell and keep repeating the lie. And Sarah Palin is at it again in her latest video about mama grizzlies. Have you seen that? This video is clearly a test for a presidential run. Oh, man. And she's still talking about common sense conservative solutions. But of course, nobody, including her, has any idea what she's talking about. It's just a catchphrase. But she is using the oldest and dirtiest trick in the book in this video, spreading fear by implying that America's children are under attack and in danger because Obama won the election. But just like Hitler, she's betting that people, especially women, are so stupid they'll fall for this lie because of its audacity and repetition, and she's preying on their children's welfare. Women and mothers, don't fall for this crap that Sarah Palin is spewing about your kids being in danger. You know better than that. Not to mention that she wants to drag feminism back to the Stone Ages. And oh, by the way, Sarah Palin has a new book coming out. It's going to be an autobiography that will be marketed to, get this, 9 to 12-year-old children. If anything's a danger to your children, it's Sarah Palin, because she's going after your kids next. So be afraid. Be very afraid. You know, I have no interest in debating philosophy because it doesn't prove anything. Philosophy can only ask questions, for which the possible answers are by their very nature nothing but subjective speculation and conjecture. That the Christian argument for God-given morality is entirely man-made and therefore subjective.
There you have it, folks. Morality is subjective until he gets mad at Sarah Palin. It's objective, and then it becomes subjective again, and then it's subjective, and it's objective. And honestly, I'm not sure he really understands. I think this is over his head. I don't think his brain can assimilate it. That's what I mean. I think No Reference Rants is really confused, but I hope he keeps going on this. The more he tries to dig himself out of this hole, well, the further he'll dig himself down. And of course, morality is subjective. Honestly, that's why No Reference Rants throws the same hissy fit a 3-year-old throws when she doesn't get to chase parked cars in the Section 8 housing parking lot. Remember, folks, it's all subjective. Have a nice day. And don't thank me now for slapping down No Reference Rants again.
Hitler. 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 We got ourselves a Nazi. You know, I have no interest in debating philosophy.